She actually locked me out of my own driveway, slapped a keypad between me and my land like it was a sentence, and then posted a fine on the bulletin board as if that would finish the conversation. I remember laughing, a short, sudden sound with no humor in it, and thinking of all the ways to be made ridiculous having your front gate become someone else's power move is up there. You'll hear me say access denied a lot in this story, but it's not about a machine, it's about someone deciding they could decide when I could go home. I was sitting in my work truck at the only entrance to my place, the gravel road ending at a black metal gate and a little plastic keypad, the kind of thing that looks official enough to make strangers obey. I punched the code the seller left me, the code that had always worked on paper because my deed and a county-recorded easement didn't care about moods. The screen blinked once, beep beep, and the words hit the way a slammed door does, access denied. Wind pushed dust in thin ribbons across the lane, the land behind the bars, quiet the way I'd imagined it the afternoon I signed my paperwork. This was supposed to be my refuge, not a place where someone with a clipboard could hold my life on a leash. There was a notice on the bulletin board bolted to a post printed crisp, like it had been put there 5 minutes earlier. My name in bold, my address spelled out twice. Unauthorized access attempts, community safety protocols, and then because nothing says we mean business like a price, a $250 administrative access permit fee due. I stepped out, gravel crunching under my boots, read the sheet closely enough to know what it was doing, turning my deed, my legal right, into a billable entry on someone else's ledger. A UPS truck rolled up behind me, the driver leaning out like he'd wandered into a live theater show he didn't buy a ticket for. "You okay up there?" he called. "Apparently I'm not allowed to go home," I said, and the sound of it was ridiculous even to me. Then Brenda showed up, clipboard, crisp, polo sunglasses, that slow practice smile people train in to apply pressure, not kindness. "Mr. Mercer," she said, like a person making the rules on the spot. "We've had security concerns, so we implemented an access control policy." Her pen tapped the clipboard once, an exacting metronome. "Access is a privilege, not a right," she said. I pointed at the land beyond the gate, said, "That's my property." She shrugged, like that made me less of a fact. "Once you pay the permit fee, we'll issue credentials." Tow truck idling down the shoulder, driver folding his arms, watching the tableau of someone enjoying the ability to make a simple thing feel complicated. My son was supposed to be coming that night. My supplies for a job were on the other side of the bars and a piece of metal, and a woman with a clipboard had turned everything into a hurdle. I didn't give her my temper. I didn't give her anything useful. I walked away, wrote an email, and went to the diner where, as it turns out, communities have their own unofficial courts. Dana, silver hair, steady hands, the kind of neighbor who'd sat through decades of petty rules and still kept coffee hot, poured me another cup and said the thing you hope someone will say when you're boxed in: "Don't argue with mood, argue with paper." She told me to pull my deed and look for recorded easement language, right-of-way, ingress, egress words that sound dull on the page and live like anchors in a courtroom. The next morning I watched the gate like it owed me an apology. Cars rolled in and out, beep, click, open, but my code returned those two little tones that felt punchy and personal. I started a log. Dates, times, who was there, what the keypad said, the extra notice that slipped into the bulletin board that morning, a fine schedule printed bold, placed like a threat. I recorded beep beep on my phone, held the keypad in frame, let the timestamp sit on the screen like evidence. Brenda called it enforcement. The county calls it recorded law. Dana called it leverage that needed to be unmasked. I mailed a certified request to the HOA asking for written grounds, why my access was denied, who had authority, what rule allowed them to suspend a recorded right. The post office stamped my receipt, and for the first time my complaint existed outside my head, outside a driveway and into a system that matched paperwork with promises. They retaliated, of course. People do when you make their power play official, and powerlessness is a fragile thing. They posted a special vote to formalize the access restrictions. The bulletin board now had a flyer that read like a script for the safety and stability of the community, turning intimidation into policy. That's the twist you don't always see coming. The person who uses an operation as a personal authority tries to convert that personal authority into communal law. It's subtle until you watch it tighten around someone else's life. Dana and I went to the county records office like two plumbers tracing a leak. There it was, black and white, a thin strip across my parcel labeled easement ingress/egress, dated years before that gate ever existed. The clerk printed certified copies, stamped them with the county seal. The pieces fit together. Ink beats intimidation. Paper makes a kind of armor that actually works in the light. I took that folder to the HOA meeting where Brenda stood in front of a projector like a conductor slides about unauthorized access community risk safety. When the vote item came up, I stepped forward and said what needed saying, not loud, just clear. I laid the certified mail receipt on the table, the county documents, the deed, the survey. I played the 10-second clip, beep, beep, and the sound landed in the room in a way words couldn't. It was just a machine refusing me access to my own home, a small demonstration that proved a larger point. People listened. The board members leaned in. The room shifted when the hearing officer later at the county hearing read the language that matters. A recorded easement isn't something you can erase with a meeting notice. Maintenance and reasonable procedures are fine. Selective denial, weaponizing a gate to control a neighbor, creates liability. The officer ordered the HOA to issue me permanent credentials and to write a policy that applied equally. No selective denial, no administrative holds that override lawful ingress and egress. The words felt cool and legal, like a steady wind clearing smoke. Brenda tried to make it about me, unpredictable, disruptive, but once you step into a system that runs on records, moods don't count. The county clerk's stamp echoed in that little reception like a new language being learned. Back home, I typed in the credential they issued under order, beep, click, and the gate opened. I exhaled in the truck so hard my ribs hurt because some fights don't feel like victories until you feel the air come back in. Then the neighborhood did something I hadn't expected it noticed. The bulletin board filled with different things, refund procedures, administrative adjustments, the sort of boring procedural language that quietly says, "We fixed it." People started coming to the diner with receipts and stories, a chorus of small injustices that collected sounded like a pattern. My wife cried when the refund check came, someone told me. Not for the money, he said, because it meant she wasn't crazy. That line, the admission that being told you're wrong can unhinge you more than any fine, landed harder than the legal order ever did. There's a part of this you should know when someone's got a clipboard and a few signatures. The temptation is to be loud, to make it personal, to storm and yell. That rarely works. What works is steady, factual, boring paperwork. The deed, the recorded easement, certified mail receipts, time-stamped video witness statements, stack it in a folder, present it calmly, and let the records do the work. It's less cinematic than confrontation, but it's more effective. Dana told me that over bacon and coffee, and she was right, proof travels farther than fury. The moral, the part that sits with me now, isn't only about gates or HOAs. It's about what happens when small authorities decide they can make rules that serve themselves, and how communities often let that happen because it's easier than dealing with conflict. But when one person decides to actually document what's happening, when neighbors bring receipts and voices and signatures, the balance changes. Power wanes where daylight reaches. You don't need drama, you need records, witnesses, and the patience to push through the dullness of bureaucracy until the truth prints out with a county seal. The ending felt almost domestic. A refund check here, a new bulletin board policy there, a BBQ where people actually talked. My son Miguel pedaled his bike on the gravel shoulder like he owned the street, ketchup on his chin, laughing. He asked me, "Daddy, are we safe now?" I knelt to his level and told him yes. It wasn't a grand triumph, just the steady unspooling of a right restored, and that to me was everything. So here's my question to you, and don't dodge it, because it's simple. When someone with a clipboard decides your life is their project, what do? Fight with your voice or fix it with paper? Tell me what you think is right. Tell me if you ever had to gather stamps and receipts to prove you belonged where you lived, or if you know someone who's been put on the wrong side of a keypad. Share the story. I want to know who stood with you and how you made the record you needed.